Welcome to the very first episode of the Tooth Fairy podcast. My name is Alia Hamid. I'm an accountant and a business advisor. This podcast is all about dentists, helping dentists run more profitable practices with less stress. I know that profits are not just about tax and sales. There's so many factors involved that can result in a profitable practice, like people, systems, and the cost of doing business. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about compliance, and I have my very first guest, Bernie Wilkinson. Bernie has been working in dental practices for over 25 years. She's got loads of experience and she's done it all. Bernie, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Thanks for having me, Alia. I've always been in dentistry and started at 16 as a trainee nurse and kind of took that old traditional progression route in-house. Went to head nurse, reception manager, practice manager, and my last role was a multi-site manager looking after 3 practices and a team of about 62 staff. So quite a big team.
You've been in the industry for 25 years. What was the turning point when you realised practice managers and lead staff really need more support?
Over the last 6 months, what I've found is that more and more people are reaching out for help in more of an SOS way. I'm in a lot of forums, a lot of WhatsApp groups, and people are asking questions. It just got me thinking, people are still probably falling into a practice manager role the way I did 20 years ago. Dentistry is completely different now. And you've got people falling into roles and kind of sink or swim. They're trying to guide themselves along. They've no real training, qualifications, and it's quite a lonely job being a practice manager at times. Some of these messages make me a little bit sad that people are saying, I'm spinning too many plates, I have no idea what I'm doing, I'm really stuck. And I thought, do you know what? I think I'm ready for a change in my career. And at one point I was kind of looking outside of dentistry. And then people that I was talking to that were close to me were saying, it's such a shame, you've got so much to give back. And then I thought, right, okay, let's see if I can help train and mentor new and aspiring managers, the people that are loyal and committed to the practices. They've got potential, they just need some direction and guidance. And I think my last assistant manager was a brilliant example of that. So Vicky came to us from being a nursery nurse, never been in dentistry. And within 18 months of Vicky starting with us, she had qualified as a nurse, took over as head nurse at one of the sites. And then I'd got so busy that we interviewed for an assistant manager. Vicky took the job and she just put everything into it. And as much as I guided and mentored Vicky, all credit to her for, she took on board everything that I said. She's now running her own practice in Glasgow. And that's another thing that made me think, what a difference can I make to the managers out there that really want to thrive and really want to make a difference to their practices.
You mentored Vicky and she went from having no experience in running a dental practice to thriving. And then you thought, hang on a minute, I can give something back. I've got something really valuable to give. And I remember seeing your post on LinkedIn about you've been on this journey and that you've been looking outside of dentistry, and you realize that actually you want to mentor people and you want to help them because you realize the challenges that dental practices face, and you realize that there's no real structure in place. Tell me a little bit about Mentor and how that came about, your kind of coaching program.
There's already a lot of things out there that are really good, that help practices stay on task, compliant, but in my opinion, it tends to centre around paperwork. There's not much out there where you can guide managers through real life experiences. And most managers will tell you that day to day, they come across scenarios that they have no idea how to handle. And it usually involves, to some degree, dealing with people. Only yesterday, there was a question put out on a dentist forum where somebody asked, what are you finding is the most difficult thing day to day? And principals and managers, every single answer that came up was dealing with people. The support and softwares that are out there are fab, but they don't give that guidance. They can't put real life experience into supporting managers to deal with day-to-day scenarios. The soft skills, the leadership as well. That's where my psychology degree comes in really useful, because I can help people understand individual differences, personality types, and that breeds empathy, which I think is massive for managers. If you can take a step back and understand why a situation is happening and why someone may be behaving the way they are, then you can think about, oh, what is the best way to deal with this scenario where I can get the most positive outcome.
From your experiences, what difference does a strong practice manager make to the overall health and the profitability of the practice?
All the difference. As a manager, I will say that they do not get enough credit for what they do in the background. They completely are the glue that holds a practice together, and they have to wear so many hats. Dentistry is completely different to 20 years ago when I first started managing. You know, you're expected to be an expert in HR. You're expected to excel in health and safety, CQC compliance, dealing with patient complaints. There's all sorts of stuff that goes on, and you are trying to spin those plates and excel in every area. And I think a competent manager needs to be trained and guided to fulfill their role properly. And day by day, there is stuff that crops up every day that you will have no idea how to deal with it. And subscriptions and softwares can't help you with that. For me, at Mentor, yes, there's a compliance side to it, and there's things available and memberships available, but with a human edge. So, you know, you can pick up the phone and say to me, I've had a really nasty complaint today. I don't know how to handle it. Please, can you help me? And we can have a telephone conversation. I can guide them through step by step how to deal with it. That's the kind of thing where these are the areas where your managers will really develop and thrive.
Compliance is one of those words that makes people feel a bit tense. And in any industry where you're dealing with people, particularly in the dental practice, compliance is so important. I mean, compliance costs money. It doesn't improve the bottom line, but if you get it wrong, it can really impact the reputation of the practice. How do you explain in a simple, practical way to teams about compliance and how to go about dealing with compliance in the practice?
I think it's simply just being proactive, a preventative approach, and using it as the foundations of everything you do. It's no good being reactive and waiting until something happens or the CQC ring. Compliance should just be embedded. You should live it day to day as a team. You should not just know the how, but the why, and what, you know, why it matters, the difference it can make. And it's just simply doing what's right consistently. It's personal, manager to manager, but you do run the risk of being so busy that you get a template, you put your logo on it, you send it out to staff, it gets filed away, and nobody really understands the meaning behind it and the difference it makes. If you can understand the why and embed that into your culture, you have more clarity. You are very openly showing staff that you care, you want to do things properly. That's building trusting relationships with your staff, and everybody is on the same path to ultimately working competently, and that in turn will improve your service to your patients and your patient experience. If you take that preventative approach and work with compliance as your foundations, then you send out a very clear message to everybody that you want to do things properly, and you want to do it. For staff, if you are visibly embedding compliance into the practice, they feel safe, they feel supported and valued, and they will excel in their own roles naturally.
If a practice owner is listening and thinking, our compliance is a bit of a mess. You know, I'm just a bit overwhelmed. I've got too many things going on. It's the last thing at the bottom of my list, but I have to do it. What are the first 3 steps you'd get them to take in the next month?
It needs to be a team approach. Even with the best managers on site, management can be a lonely place sometimes, and you have to support your manager and be involved. Know what's going on, keep on top of things, and ask questions. And I think we've talked about using it as foundations and being preventative. If you haven't done that so far and you're having sleepless nights and you're worrying about the CQC ringing, just take that first step and ask for help. That first conversation of, we're struggling, we're spinning too many plates, we're not sure what to do. There's updates and things changing weekly. We don't know where to start. Just reach out and ask for help and take that first step in making positive changes within your practice.
You've got a background in psychology and counselling. How does that influence the way you support practice managers and their teams?
Hugely. Choosing psychology as my undergrad topic was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And aside from management and looking after a team, you know, even as an individual, as a mum, as a wife, it's completely changed how I view people, the empathy and respect I have for people, and how I interact with people. Mainly understand personality types and individual difference. It's very rare that people do things maliciously or not the way that you would do them on purpose. So
Yeah.
if you can have an understanding and some empathy for why someone's made a decision or did something the way they did, you can sit back and say, okay, I now understand a little bit about how that person thinks and works. How am I going to interact with them to get the most positive outcome? And this is what I was talking about, the kind of thing that subscriptions and software and templates and calendars, they can't teach you those interpersonal skills. That's part of it did come from my psychology degree, but then also it's just been learning along a 26-year journey.
It's people that make the practice. You could have the best software, the best tech, the best equipment, but if the people aren't working together, the principals, the associates, they're not going to be able to do their jobs properly. The client comes through the door, they're going to sense that people aren't working together. And you can almost like sense the tension in the room when you walk into a room and there's animosity and people feel, oh, it's not my job, I don't have to do that. And I realized the whole thing about people aren't rational. You could give them a job description and say, here's your roles and responsibilities. And sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. We forget we're not perfect. But if you can tap into how somebody feels, how somebody is empowered, how somebody is trusted to do the role, how they fit into the bigger picture of the practice running smoothly, it's about that communication and how everyone is important in that puzzle, then you get them to be motivated to do their job.
Absolutely.
And then instead of almost like finger pointing, if they get it wrong, support them. Maybe they didn't understand. Maybe they don't know the implications of what they're doing and how it's impacting the rest of their team. It's that educating them. And that's all good and well, but if they're consistently not performing, I think it's also okay to say, I'm sorry, you don't fit in here. This culture doesn't support you. And just to let them find another culture that supports them. So on one hand, I think it's really important to support people and help them to work together. I also think it's really important when they're not fitting in with a particular culture, maybe they're not performing, just show them the door.
Absolutely. There's times when that comes. And one of the important things that I started to say in an induction, I talked about the probation period, and I very clearly and openly said, look, at the end of this 6 months, whatever it was, we're going to sit down and we're going to do a review. It's as much for you as it is for us. And it's okay for you to turn around and say in 3 or 6 months, actually, I'm not enjoying the role, or actually, I don't feel like I'm fitting in and I'm getting on with everybody. Or, that's okay. It's not failure. It's not for me. And there's a mutual respect there. And that's just one example of what I try and embed from the start. You know, this is what we expect. This is what we're going to do to support you. We just want you to be part of us, part of the team. We respect you as an individual, and you move together. That's the most important thing. Empathy, respect, and moving together as a team.
For someone who's just stepped into a practice manager role and feels totally overwhelmed, what would you tell them to focus on in their first 90?
There's so much that goes on. I think in the first 90 days, if you feel like you're spinning those plates, get yourself in a really good routine. Use some sort of platform that will allow you to set up daily, weekly, monthly tasks and get yourself in a really good pattern. And the other thing I would say is protect some of your time. If you're not careful, you can come into work every day and spend all day, every day firefighting. So, which is going to happen. You know, things crop up every day, but protect some of your time to do the tasks that you need to do so that your list isn't endlessly building and you're adding to it. And the other thing I would say is it's okay to ask for help and to not know everything at the start. I was very young when I started in management and very keen to please and impress. And I would say now that I probably should have asked for help more.
I think the point you made about protect some of your time, because in a new role, you're learning, you're sort of building relationships with the team. You're learning about the role, you're learning how things are done, but you also need time to sort of step back and say, is this the right way? Because you've come in with a completely fresh pair of eyes, you've got some experience, you're looking at it for the first time, and it might be that you could do things more efficiently, it might be that you could do things better. And if you don't have that headspace to step back and almost like look at things from a bird's eye point of view, then you will be firefighting all the time. I'm not doing your job, Bernie.
It's what they say, isn't it? You can spend time working in the business, but you also have to spend time working on the business. Another example is I've done this for a few years now, and I tell everybody else, one day a month, I protect half a day to simply sit and read. Dentistry moves so fast that you can very quickly fall behind. And I spend half a day just looking at all the update emails I've had, the newsletters, reading some of the journals that come through, and just keeping myself on top of what's going on.
Are there any tools, templates, and routines that you recommend all practice managers to have in place?
I think a robust planner for yourself, like we talked about, and then I think for the team, just really robust and clear SOPs, structured, you know, your policies, your handbooks, very clear guidance, so that people know what's expected of them. They know exactly how to carry out the role and how to carry it out well. If you can get people working that way, it takes away a lot of that day-to-day stress and hustle and bustle, and people can come in, do their individual role competently, and everybody doing that together is a calm, collected, nice environment. People feel safe, empowered, they know what's expected and they know what to do.
Making sure everybody knows what their roles and responsibilities are. If a dentist listening only implemented one change after listening to this episode, what would you want that to be?
Preventative and proactive approach to compliance. Use it. It's not a burden. Use it as strong foundations for a practice that wants to excel.
You talked about compliance in practice management. Help me understand, the practice manager responsible for the compliance?
Generally overseeing the compliance, I would say yes, but obviously everybody has their own accountability. Right. In different areas, but generally I would say it is the manager that takes overall responsibility for compliance. But this is where I also said before, my advice to principals would be to keep an eye on and support your managers. You know, it's nice where you can get to a place where you completely trust them to get on and do what they need to do, and you need to be in clinic treating patients, but just bear in mind that it's a difficult job, it can be a lonely job, and just check in with them.
What's one myth about practice management or compliance that you wish would die out.
It's easy that, we can just get on with it, that we can take it on the chin and just look after everybody, because sometimes managers struggle as well. And I think if they're going to excel in the roles, it can't be that traditional, I've just internally progressed through the ranks, and we need to give them proper guidance and support.
Do you have almost like a practice manager handbook, pathways to success program in Mentor?
What I worked on originally was like a 12-week mentoring plan, but I've chopped that down into different things now. There's a few different things going on, because I understand that 12 weeks commitment to one practice and one manager is a lot. I've chopped it down to, I'm running a 1-day workshop, foundations in dental practice management. It's quite intense. It's a lot to cover in 1 day. And then the other things I do is a half day or a full day kind of whistle-stop tour of your practice, where I can give you a gap analysis and look at what your manager can take away as an action plan and a to-do list to implement things. And I think the thing with all this is it doesn't have to be, an instant and complete overhaul. If somebody comes on my 1-day course and they take back into practice 2 little tips, 2 little changes that they can implement, and they're successful and you are pushing forward as a practice, that's enough.
They could come in, do the course, go away, implement it, and be like, this is great. I need some help in this area, and then they'll come back to you, do another course. The key is the putting the putting the knowledge into practice, seeing how it works in day to day, because until you do that, you can't really see if it's going to work or if it's not going to work.
The other thing that happens is, because managers are so busy in the role, it's difficult to get them out for the day, or to get them on these training days. And the problem that you face is, if you don't do these and if you don't network, you're kind of stuck in your own little practice bubble, and you plod along and you don't know what you don't know until you step out and see what other people are doing, see what advice and tips somebody like me, who's got 26 years experience, can give you. You've got to reach out, step out, network as much as you can. Just pick up little hints and tips here and there, take things back, make small changes over time.
Actually, I didn't realise how much was involved in running a dental practice. I obviously only ever see the numbers, and people talk to me about tech and hiring, but the practice management side of things, I would say this is completely new to me. But it makes sense, the person who manages the people is almost like the glue that brings everybody together. So has really been insightful to me as well. Any last comments that you'd like to make? Where can we find you, Bernie, if we want to work with you? What's the best way to contact you to see how you can help a practice manager?
My website's now up and running. It's Bernie Mentor Dental Compliance.co.uk. I've got an Instagram page, Facebook page, and I try and post little hints and tips on there. And I also try and keep it up to date within dentistry to support managers when something updates or a bit of new legislation comes out, because I think that's the other thing as well. Nobody tells you. You've got to keep on top, and you've got to be out there looking for it, and it's changing all the time.
That's great. Thank you so much for being on the Tooth Fairy podcast. My name is Alia Hamid. I'm an accountant and a business advisor. There's more than clients that make practice profitable. You need to have systems in place. You need to have people working together. I need to be able to manage your costs. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.